Hello, folks. Welcome again to Raj Astrology. And today we're going to discuss the Saturn transit in January 2020 for Libra moon sign. So, if you have your moon in the house of Libra in your natal chart, then this presentation is for you. So, for Libra folks, Saturn is going to transit from your Thursday. Right now, Saturn is here currently, and on January 24th, 2020, Saturn will slowly move towards Capricorn. So, Saturn is moving to its own house of Capricorn, and it's moving to the fourth house for Libra folks. So the Saturn transit in the fourth house for Libra folks is not an auspicious transit. The reason being Saturn is transiting in the fourth house, that's a Kendra, and Saturn movements in the Kendra house is considered to be one of the tough transits, especially when it transits the fourth, seventh, and tenth house. Those transits are considered to be pretty tough because Saturn generally doesn't give good results when it transits the fourth house. So your fourth house is actually the house of your mother, your house, the number of lands and the property you own. Your vehicles are signified by the strength of your fourth house, and basically your roots, that is your homeland or your hometown. Those results are also deduced from the fourth house. So when Saturn transits into a fourth house and it doesn't give, or rather gives inimical effects, so Saturn will affect all these areas of the fourth house. So the concern here is there might be some health issues for your mother. You might have property disputes or land issues. You might also face some danger from vehicles. So that's one thing when Saturn moves into the fourth house, you have to be careful about. And also sometimes it may take you from your route. So basically it might even separate yourself from your hometown, which in some cases is good because you might get an opportunity abroad as well, because if you're getting separated from your homeland, so we can take some positive inferences also from that. So these are the main houses. I'm sorry. These are the main areas which you will find the interference of Saturn, and you have to be careful in all these aspects during this transit. This period of Saturn, this 2.5 years, but this time it's going to stay for at least 3 years in the same sign. So you'll have Saturn here sitting here for at least 3 years, starting from January 24th. This period is also known, as I said, the Shani Dhaya. So it's like whatever you do, there would be a lot of obstacles. So it's time for you to gear up and just make sure if there's any pattern of problems coming across for you, take note and take the appropriate actions for those. The another issue in case of support for you, because if you notice, Jupiter has transited in November 2019, and Jupiter is sitting in your third house of gains. I'm sorry, it's not a third house of gains, but it's a third house of communication and your relationship with your cousins, your brothers, everything constitutes a third house. And Jupiter in the third house is also not an auspicious transit, so you don't have much of a backup from Jupiter as well, at least for till April. You don't have any backup, so it's time to be really careful on these fronts. Another point which you might notice is once Saturn sits on the fourth house, there's something called as a Saturn's aspect. So when he sits in the fourth house, I'm sorry, when he sits in the fourth house, he looks at the third house from himself. So that is one, two, three. So he looks like the third house from himself. So that translates to your sixth house. So when Saturn looks at the sixth house, this is 100% aspect. So all the issues on the sixth house were also might be a headache. So the sixth house consists of debts, enemies, and diseases. So you might have problems in these areas as well. So you might have some health issues for yourself because it's the house of diseases. So there's some danger in those aspects. Also, debts and enemies. So these are some of the areas additionally to the fourth house which this Saturn transit might affect you. And apart from the third house, Saturn also casts an aspect on your seventh house and the 10th house from where it's sitting. So that translates to your 10th house and first house of identity. So when Saturn is sitting in his fourth house in not a good position, though he is situated in his own house, so that's one good aspect. He is in his own house, and he sits and aspects three houses from where he sits. So simultaneously the third, seventh, and tenth from itself it aspects. So that translates for you It's also looking at your 10th house, that's the house of your profession, and it's looking at your first house, that's your self and identity. So basically, since Saturn is generally a slow and a karmic planet, you might have to face some issues in all these three houses which I discussed, namely the 6th, the 10th, and the 1st, and you can expect problems or delays in these particular aspects. So to sum up, I would say that overall it's time for Libra folks to be very careful for this transit, at least for the next 2 years from January. It's going to be major changes in the houses which I just discussed. So it's just time for you to be careful and alert and take the appropriate actions for the same. So that's it for Libra folks. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Cheers. Goodbye.